Hello and welcome to my first video of my new series Hidden Treasures. Today we will be walking along the Hoing Kaut hiking trail, pretty much in the middle of Germany, around Limburg, but I will link the trail in the description. To explain what I am planning with this series a bit, let me start off like this first. This is my first time doing something like this, so please cut me some slack if the camera work isn't the greatest, because I'm not that used to talking into a camera, especially since I'm still using my phone. It's not that I'm super used to talking into that camera. I will probably have many times where I just look at the screen and it will look a bit off. But what I want to do with this series, I want to explore the hidden treasures, as the series title says. Small hiking trails that are not too known, that I really recommend or don't know yet and want to explore with you together. But today, as my first hiking trail, I chose the Hoing Kaut hiking trail because it is a trail around my home village, around the village where I grew up. I was part of the team who established the hiking trail, and yeah, that's why I chose this as my first thing to do, because I know the trail very, very well. And I want to tell you a bit about it with footage from the ground, footage from above, and information around it. So yeah, just take your time, sit back, relax, and enjoy what you're going to see. All right, we are now at the start of the trek at the community center in Barig-Selbenhausen, where there's let me turn around, a big map of the trek that you can look up beforehand. And we are going to go, let me change the camera real quick. We are going to go the red marked route, which is the bigger route, about 12 kilometers in length. And yes, that's gonna be our trek for today. And I would say we get started right away. More of that along the trek. The first part of the trek will take you through the middle of the village of Barig-Selbenhausen. The trek itself is centered around the history of the valley where we are right now. People living here were known for their Hoing, in English simply plum jam, and parts of the trek are an old trading route for people selling their products, including the Hoing, in the nearby town of Weilburg. Alright, we have now reached our first cross point, our first crossing in the hiking trail. This is the place where the trail divides in two. Like I said before, we are following the red trail, which is going this way. And as you might have seen, there is a sign with a blue arrow on it that shows you the shorter path, which is about 8 kilometers in length total, which goes up this way. but for a better understanding of how the two crossings, or how the way divides up, splits up, let me show it again from above. The longer red trail will lead you up to the Almerskopf, a small forested hill, and up to the forest cemetery. The shorter blue trail will lead you up to the Breiwald, the forest above Barig-Selbenhausen, and past its barbecue area until they merge again. The links to both of these tracks will be down in the description. Okay, so we now have finally left the village behind after the first a bit more than a kilometer. So these are the last houses behind me, and now we're actually heading towards the forest and the old castle ruin of Merenberg, always most of the times in sight. Reached our first patch of forest for today's hike. We're gonna move between two different forests. Three, actually. Divided by a main street. That is one of the slight downsides of this trail, that you have to cross a main road twice, or nay, three times. But it wouldn't be doable otherwise. So this is the only way we could do it. We were able to do it, and it's really just a few meters, nothing really too bad. Let me just walk you along and you enjoy the sounds of nature a bit. So we're a bit more out in the open again now, walking past some fields, and now we just got the first view down the valley, where you can see the village, small town of Löhnberg, and the castle ruin there, which is a nice place to visit. So let me show you. But you know what? Everything looks better from above, right? Just a small fun fact on the side. The small town of Löhnberg is actually the place where the Zelter's water comes from. We have now reached the forest cemetery of the municipality of Meerenberg, which is not only a place for quietness, calmness or grief, but also a good place to take a rest and catch your breath after the pretty much exactly 100 altitude meters we've just made from the start to here. We're about 3.5 kilometers in, so still 10 to go. But this part up to here is the most physically demanding part of the trail. So take a seat, take your time, take a deep breath, and then continue whenever you can. I have just realized while editing this that I've been confused with the kilometers throughout the video a bit. There has been a recent change to the track because we've had one part of the track always being muddy and almost not passable. So we've changed up the track a bit, which makes it a bit longer. So now it isn't 12 kilometers long, but almost 13. But the tracks linked in the descriptions are up to date, so you can look this up for yourself. We've reached the most, let's say, inconvenient part of the trek, which leads us about 500 meters directly on the side of a not busy road, but a road. But you really have a gorgeous view over to the castle ruin of Meerenberg, which I'll show you in a second. And you can look downwards into another valley on our right, which I will show you too, which is just a great vantage point to look over to the Knoten, which is a, well, let's call it a hill. It's not a mountain, but it's a hill. You can just see both valleys. On your left you see Barig-Selbenhausen, where the trek is going around, and to your right you can see or look over to the Knoten. After about 2 minutes of walking, we're off the street again and back into another wooded area. So shadow from above, not too hot. We are now in the previously mentioned Breiwald, the forest above Barig-Selbenhausen, where the blue path will merge with the red path soon again. We are just closing in on the point where the shortcut comes back on the track. And I have to show you something. That's something you get to see here. Let me turn the camera up. This is a blind worm. Even though it does look like a snake and mostly behaves like a snake, it is actually a kind of lizard that loses its legs still in the egg and hatches without any legs. That's something you get to see here quite regularly, actually. But as you see, This one lost its tail already, so it's either been attacked by a bird or something else, and they shed off their tails in defense. The tail starts to wiggle like crazy after it's peeled off. I don't know how to say it better. And the predators will then go after the tail and it can escape.
But these aren't the only animals found on the hiking trail. Let's take a look at more animals filmed all on the Hoing Kaut trail.
Here on the two paths are one again, and we are about halfway finished. Just closing in on 6 kilometers, and now it's just a long straight till our next important point, let's call it that. We are now about to exit the forest again after that really long stretch behind us there. We're now pretty much exactly at 7 kilometers in total, and we are about to go onto the so-called Boyer Height, the Bariger Heide in I say quote-unquote normal German, so an accent. That's why it's called Boyer Height, and we will have a great vantage point over the castle ruin again. Okay, closing in on the next sightseeing aspect of our tour is the Ereigniswald. I will look up what that is called in English and will put it over or speak it in later when I'm showing you aerial views. It is a man-made forest where you can buy trees for your wedding, for your birthday, anniversaries, or whatever you want. Basically, you can buy a tree, plant it here, and it will grow with the other ones into a forest in the next decades. You're greeted by a sign with a quote from Martin Luther. I'll show you real quick, which basically translates to, "If I knew the world would end tomorrow, I would plant a tree today." Make of that what you will. That's the quote that will greet you here. And in the background you see some of the oldest trees that have been planted here. And back over there are more of the younger trees. But that is something better shown to you from the bird's eye view.
So I've tried to look up the translation for Ereigniswald, and the best I could come up with is event forest. which is, like I explained, just a man-made forest where you can buy trees for your special anniversaries, occasions, festivities, whatever you want to, basically, and yeah, start a forest, grow a forest with others that are celebrating their anniversaries or events.
We're just close to the next strip of road, but we are passing a special treat. If you come here in the right time of the year, there's a strawberry field just next to the hiking trail where you can pluck your own strawberries and yeah, eat them. It's just a little tip on the side. We're back again in the forest on a parallel path to the last long stretch, as I called it. That's about 200 meters that direction. So we're on a parallel path now, going back a little bit, but we'll change up the route soon. Coming up next is one of the most beautiful parts of the trek. It's the so-called romantic path, which just is really a path directly through the forest, not on pre-paved or recognizable roads. It's just a path through the woods. After this beautiful romantic path, we're turning into the village again, and we're heading straight towards Meerenberg. Well, straight towards Barig first, but again, great view onto Meerenberg from down here, and we're gonna cross Barig for a short time until we get into our next forested area. A few meters later, we're leaving Barig again, and we have to go 100 meters on the road again until we get into the next patch of forest, the next and the last. We are a good bit over 11 kilometers in now and heading straight towards our next and last resting point, the so-called Buttersteg, which literally translates to the butter bridge. Yeah, more to that strange name later. Or you know what? Let's do it now.
This is actually pretty easy and pretty quickly explained. The Buttersteg is part of the previously mentioned trading route, and yeah, people were just transporting their self-made butter over the butter bridge to sell it in the nearby town of Weilburg. And today it's a regionally well-known and well-maintained resting point.
And while you've been informed of the Buttersteg now, I've reached the point where we have to leave the main path and go down to the small river where the Buttersteg crosses.
This is always a nice place to catch your breath again, cool off your feet in the stream, eat something and just relax with the sound of water in the background to gather your energy for the last stretch.
So now, after having lunch, cooled off my feet in this cold stream, and having the grass cut conveniently for the last stretch, we're heading straight towards the village again and onto our last stretch, to the final stretch of the trail. We're almost done. Let's cross the Buttersteg. This one is a doozy, that's why I'm back here, because we have to go right here, which isn't as clearly marked as it probably should be, but you will see the next sign right here. The last few meters ahead, and as I'm just casually making my way back to my car, let's look back on what we've seen, huh? While you were getting all the good parts, I've made my way back to the community center and have completed the track. What should I say now? This is probably one of the harder parts, how to end a video. I can only say, see for yourself, walk the way. It's worth the time, especially with good weather, and if you have time on your hands, you really get to see a lot. All right, I need a shower now. I hope you enjoyed the journey. I hope you enjoyed the trail. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please subscribe for more. I hate to do this, but a thumbs up would be great. A great show of appreciation. We'll just go from here and say until the next one. Bye bye.